Niko na
Let me
kahoma
close.
sijui kameanza leo ama nini this afternoon. I know the reason why kamekuja.
Nini
I
hiyo?
need to work. Kahoma.
Baridi.
No, sio baridi.
Mm.
Maybe the last few days I've not had good sleep. And normally when sleep is disrupted, it messes up with the immune system. So
Hold
you
on, let me
get
just plug something here. There's some bit of noise.
okay. We lie.
Kuna hapa kwangu
We
there's
lie.
some sort of a flap that when upepo ikipita it sort of starts banging the door like a slight tap, and you'd think that first days when I
Somebody's
moved into
knocking.
this house, I used to imagine
Yeah.
somebody is trying to get in. It's just
Okay.
so episode number 62. Kimichezo michezo tu, and we are here.
We are here, bro. We are here.
We are approaching that magic 100, man.
Exactly. We are.
Is it are you having lots of rain in Rwanda?
No, actually not. It's quite moderate here. It's not been as crazy as I have seen in on social media with regards to Nairobi. Nairobi seems to be you guys are getting pounded like crazy with rain. I saw even I think there was a clip that Larry Madowo shared, which was basically it was the weatherman saying, the reason why Nairobi has been experiencing these heavy floods and whatever, and it's actually because apparently we are receiving over 200% of over the normal rains that we typically have during this, the long rain season. I believe this is a long rain. Short rains is usually over December. Is this the short rains or one of those? I'm not sure which one is which, but the typical rains, because this is typically rainy season, typically it starts from late March through to April. I think it begins dissipating as we go into May, and then June is just a cold weather, sometimes with slight drizzle. So apparently the rains we are now experiencing there over 200% above normal. So that's why I was actually just sharing with a friend saying, some of the floods that we are experiencing, I don't think they could have. Part of it is not all purely to be blamed on our drainage system. Even with a good drainage system, sometimes you do get that overcapacity kind of a thing. I believe you've seen also reports out of places like Dubai that have been experiencing also some heavy rains. So as much as yes, there is a drainage system issue to be resolved, there is an issue of planning our construction to be resolved, because many of some of those buildings that experience that heavy flooding was because some of them were actually built around a riparian area that is close to a river. And of course, with these heavy rains, typically the rivers will tend to burst, and any structure that is nearby, of course, will get flooded. So there's all those elements, heavy rains, way above normal, poor infrastructure in terms of drainage, poor planning in terms of this unplanned construction that has happened in areas that shouldn't have been. There shouldn't have been a structure, all that. And then, of course, part of it culminates to poor leadership. People are even saying that part of the disaster preparedness didn't really kick in for Nairobi. I've seen the latest stories show about 70 people have died out of this. Anyway, it's been crazy when looking at the news, and I hope wherever you are, you're safe, and you guys are at least in an area which did experience flooding. I saw some of the sections around Syokimau had some
The part of Athi River that I am, the exact part is quite okay. When you start moving towards town that is Mlolongo, Syokimau, that's a very the people there have gone through some very unfortunate situations. But where I am, it's quite raised, and I think it's just luck because when I was moving to Athi River from Mombasa, Mlolongo is one of the places I had considered. But now, when I was visiting the area now, I was hearing of Mlolongo, so I met someone who was to take me around. And when I look at the area, when I look at whenever I survey a certain place, I try to know how will this place look when it starts raining. So I looked at the surroundings. There's it's really it was during it was June. It was very cold. There was no rain, but I could sense that something could go wrong very quickly. Then they showed me a house that looked very nice. That when I took up the road that we are going through, the road was muddy. So I was asking, where is this mud coming from? And uh, we have not had any rain. They
Yeah.
gave me some fuzzy explanation, and I said that if it looks this bad, it looks so bad that the truck that was to I'd already talked to some people. They were bringing my things over. The truck that was to bring over my stuff, it could get stuck there. So I don't know. Sometimes the human mind can really work. Can the advancement in your human mind can really work against, because as looking at this road, it is muddy and it's during the dry season. So my mind was thinking, what is this wet stuff that I'm stepping on? Nini nimekanyaga? So I was like, I so many things are going through my mind. I said, if I start going in that direction, chances are I may even lose my appetite. So the lady I was with told me, okay, let's board a matatu. I take you somewhere. So we boarded a matatu. I was still new to the area. We alighted somewhere. We were passing places. I was seeing a railway line, whatnot. Then he showed me a house. Okay, let's go. So I landed here, and since then, uh, we have not faced any kind of this disaster. Of course, it's quite can be muddy in some places. There's a route that I tend to take another route when going to the market or somewhere else, because there's a certain road, a dirt road that I normally follow. It seems to have a depression, so water tends to accumulate there. Then you have to do some bit of gymnastics, walking next to the wall. I said, I do gymnastics when I'm doing my heat workouts kwa nyumba. I want to have a bit of a normal walk. So other than that, there are no cases. This particular area where I am, there's practically zero flooding. So that's it. Just to run back on what you said, you mentioned that our volume precipitation was what 200% more. You are muted. You're muted, I think. So you're at 200% more. Then,
Yes,
I think,
from
then,
that
then we
report.
should
Maybe I can even let me play it actually because I think it's fairly instructive. Let me see if I can get it. This was from Larry Mado. He's been quite, talking. He's been hammering the Murkomen and the Kenya Airports Authority, which I think is a good cause.
sorry.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. Let me.
Some hot fluids, some hot tea with lemon could sort of try
That's
to
what that's exactly what I am on right now. This thing I
exactly.
just detected it
Uh,
around
we
2 o'clock
call we
today.
call
I
them
just felt
we, we call them age old cures. The good old hot lemon tea.
This is spring, when the winds from the south and the winds
Yes,
from the north
let me start
converge.
it. Huh?
They converge right.
Just talk us through what we've seen there and whether more's expected.
It is. Absolutely it is. They have two rainy seasons, one in the spring and one in the fall. It's when that intertropical convergence zone gets right over these Central African countries and right here, or just more rainfall coming down. But look at the numbers here. Just in the past 72 hours, almost 300 millimeters in the city. And yes, over the past month, more than 300 millimeters. If you look at the percentages, we're looking at 150 to 200% of normal coming down. So yes, it rains and yes, it floods, but when you're 200% of normal, it's very little you can do about it. And here's the first rainy season. This is spring, when the winds from the south and the winds from the north converge. They converge right over the area right now. And then it moves away, and summer will be completely dry. And you will see cracked roadways and lawns that are just completely dead and dry and brown. And then all of a sudden, again, later on this fall, the rain comes back again. But we're not supposed to have this much so fast. It's supposed to be a long, steady rain. We call these the long rains we're in, where the fall are the short rains. Well, it has been long and it has been heavy, and more rain is coming down tonight, coming down again tomorrow, and again another 150 millimeters on top of the 300 that's already fallen.
So that's it.
So what are we talked of percentages some time back? You mentioned a percentage. What 200%?
Yeah. Did you hear that? So we are getting between 150 to 200% of the normal rain.
Okay, then I think
get.
we should not be so fast in castigating the authorities, because they seem to be
Exactly.
they have been caught offside. They've been caught off guard, and we are in a, as much as we call it this a watery situation, but it's a firefight now. It's like a firefighting situation. Instead of fires raging everywhere, you have water raging. So I don't know if you can call it a water fight, but maybe even people like the armed forces rescue services would come in and try to because
Rescue,
obviously
particularly.
the county government is overwhelmed. And then if you look at the aspects of rescue personnel, chances are they are dealing with something they've never dealt with before. So yes, we do have this thing of always castigating the government, but okay, let's just see what can be done if all these government bodies can just come together. And apart from trying to turn things around, see what improvements can be made in terms of preparing for the worst. Yeah, preparations, because it has happened now for the first time. We are getting extra rainfall. Then, if next year we have such an event and they are not prepared again, now we would have to say, hey guys, I thought you learned our lessons. What happened? So for the time being, I think we should be having even the private sector working in the public sector to try to turn things around and see where we're going to be. But the situation is really chaotic. If you look at
It's
what's going on,
chaotic. I
it's
mean,
chaotic and
as I said, because of these heavy rains, that report I just said over 200% of normal. There is very little that we could do to reduce it. But yes, we could have reduced its impact with some proper drainage, some controlled construction, ensure we live by some of those sort of policies or standards they have set in terms of building codes, not to build close to riparian areas. I guess that would have reduced part of its impact in terms of either the death or any of the kind of the fatalities and injuries that have been caused. Yes, but all the same, when you have this, then you're bound to have, regrettably, some lives will be lost, because nature, when it comes to that sort of vengeance, and you happen to be, on its way, then unfortunately you suffer that. So there's that, and that no one can control. As we say, it's God's acts of nature are beyond our
What I
capacity.
found to
But
be
with the disaster preparedness, we can reduce or mitigate the impact of some of these effects.
what I find to be a bit also surprising is that the posh areas like Gigiri, where the UAE embassy is located, got flooded.
Yes, this I saw. You saw that image of the UAE ambassadors. Is it residents?
Yeah.
So yeah,
But,
so and some of these places are on some very hilly places. If you're in places like Kitusuru, so those are hilly areas. So the impact of that again is
yeah,
very little.
I also saw a very posh looking place. These places, they look green, and is a gated compound. And somebody took a picture from a room upstairs, and that is a place where you needed a boat, because if the vehicle is flooded up to bonnet level, that's not a place you're going to walk.
Yeah, that's
If
true.
the vehicle is flooded up to bonnet level, that means you need something like a watercraft. You need to. You
And I know
can
some of those.
you can chop down the show to half an hour for your case. So let's do it to.
Yeah, let's continue. Let's continue.
Well, we'll do a 10-minute top up, then we close it for today.
Yeah, I think that
Okay,
would be good.
The thing is this. Now that these so-called posh areas fell victim, is it a problem of this? They didn't do. They were concerned in the wrong places, or is it under what you call the acts of nature?
I think there's a little bit of both. There were some that were literally on riparian land. Remember some of those during Wangari Maathai's reign? I think partly part of Kibaki, and even the early years of the Uhuru administration. I remember places like Nakuma Tree were brought down, and it was people were up in arms saying, why, how can you bring down Nakuma UK? I remember it used to be one of my favorite shopping places, because it was small and easy to navigate. I don't like these big kind of malls, kind of places. But yes, it had to go down because it was literally built around a riparian land. There was already that. There's a Java spot, or the Java and the Shell petrol station around Kileleshwa. But I hear now it was brought down, but apparently somebody told me they're looking to reconstruct again. So you're seeing part of the failure of leadership. So it's great to have seen an element where the leadership acknowledged, yes, here the law was not followed. Here somebody went overboard, either because they received a bribe or something, and a building came up. It's a big loss of investment, but you save on life in the longer run. So in the long run. So now we seem to be regressing back if we are allowing some of this to continue.
So just to be clear, do we have a law that prohibits any form of construction on riparian land?
Yes, there's a law. There's a law for all these things. Nothing is. Oh, I think for Kenya it has just been, as you said, impunity.
Then I
has,
think this
has
is
taken
now
drain. Because that's
now
why you're
that
finding, you've been hearing of those cases, people around Kilimani area, Kileleshwa area saying those are the new pipelines of the future, because now it's becoming like a ghetto with all those very high-rise buildings. I mean, apartments should only go up to about 4 floors. I wonder how you can be patched up on the 10th, 15th floor, and how you can sleep so comfortably in those kind of cases. As much as we blame the government, also us as Kenyans, we have a place to take, because we are the ones buying and renting those properties. How can you allow yourself to live in such a place? So there's already building codes and laws governing how far a building should go if it is being constructed at a certain area. There's laws in terms of building closer to a river. All these things are there. They were not, they didn't have to put up a new law to pull down some of those constructions that we saw were coming down during Uhuru and Kibaki administration. All those were happening because they were following the law.
then I think this is now an opportune moment to crack that whip thoroughly, so that as long as your land was affected, it was, and we actually are able to see that the effect was that it was on riparian land, it has to be demolished. In fact, they should not allow people to move back to those areas. Demolish, and find a way of sort of cordoning off that area, because apparently in Kenya you need to have some fencing and some sort of deterrent for people not to pass in certain areas. So I think this is time for the government to crack the whip, especially the county government. Let's just, now that hapa kulikuwa flood because you're the wrong place, you are not going back here. Plain and simple. In fact,
Actually, that's true. The government should just enforce. As much as, of course, yes, we can blame the citizens. Sometimes people are left with no choice. You know, you're looking for a place. Everyone is coming to Nairobi to look for a livelihood. So whichever sort of, it's a challenge looking for an affordable house in Nairobi. That's to start. That's the number one challenge. But I think government has an obligation to clearly inform people. I think actually what they were doing during the Uhuru time, because I remember my sister was living in Kileleshwa, and she was living in some apartments that were actually close to a river. And you know, it's not that you can't build close to a river, because you know some of those places, having some water body close to a building, you know, it adds some serenity and some natural element, which is.
but what if it floods?
Yeah, I think it depends on how close the proximity is. I think there's a place where there's some an allowance to that. And like her, she was living in one of those apartments. And what the government did, it went marking buildings that were in riparian lands. And I remember that time she was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm planning to move next month because our building has been." They didn't force people to evacuate or to be evicted. They just marked. And I think that's even a better step, because now it's telling you you're on your own. Anything happening on these buildings,
Yeah, of
you'll be
course.
on your
Yeah.
own. But eventually the goal was to have them pulled down. But what they started doing, they started marking to notify the residents. The next step was now to bring them down after that. And I think they concentrated more on the commercial building. That's why you had the likes of the Java and the Shell petrol station, the Nakumatt UK and others. But they seem to have been a little more lenient where there were sort of people living in.
Okay, so I think that is what in fact, they should actually focus, every place that has been adversely affected is a sign that you are in riparian land. You need to move out. And now, after the eviction or the move has taken place, it should actually prevent people from moving out, because the problem is not demolishing. The problem is somebody coming back and starting building something there. So there should be a way of deterring people from. I don't know if they can get hold of very huge boulders and pour them there, and I don't know, because the Kenyans sometimes just you need to use force. So when watafute very huge rocks like the ones they find in, is it in Vihiga, and you just dump all those rocks there, very huge rocks that you need like an 100-ton crane to move. Mwaga hiyo mawe huko, so no one would want to. But then again, if you put rocks, you'll be occupying that. Then the land, the water will find somewhere else to go. But problem here is that we need to be just very keen in enforcing the law, plain and simple.
You're right, because what I even wonder is, I just saw the other day of a house. I mean, it looked so nice. I think the owner just almost about finished. Somebody took a picture of it when it had, so it was sitting on sort of some stilts, because the underground was gonna be the parking. So it was on some pillars, but apparently it's like the pillars couldn't hold that structure for long. Somebody took shortcuts. So the house, what it did, boom, it just rested on the floor. It just fell off. The weight of the house just fell off. Somewhere in, I think, must have been Rongai, or I don't know where it was. But somebody took a picture of those apartments.
I hope there are no
looked
casualties there.
No, there were no casualties because people hadn't yet moved in. It was a completely new structure. So my
But
question is,
by the time the vehicle, the building got to that level, were there people from the authorities inspecting that structure before it got to that point?
good question. I'm sure they were. I'm sure somebody paid off someone. The owner
I-
or the developer must have taken shortcuts. I'm sure the surveyors, the architect, everyone who is involved, any professional involved, must have told them. And for me, what I wonder is, now that guy has spent quite a lot of money to put up that structure, and then it just fell off. Now it has to be brought down, literally. Maybe he might be able to salvage a bit of some of the items, but it's a huge loss because I'm sure he was expecting, people to start moving in the coming weeks and months, and the house to start paying off whatever investment he has put in. And we've seen many of this. So what I always ask myself, don't the people realize them taking shortcuts is costing them more than benefiting?
Yes, I found it to be a bit strange, but then again, it should not be strange. As somebody says, we are who we are.
We are
My
who we
my
are.
take is this situation should serve as a wake up call, especially for. I really hope the people in government change their attitude. Hata kama ni kukula, so unakula kiakili jamani. The issue of riparian land should be a no-go zone. Try other things. You can inflate prices of toilet tissue and tea and biro pens, but things that involve direct loss of life, that should be a no-go zone. What do you think?
100%. We can still continue maybe for another 15 minutes. Let's put in about 45 minutes.
Okay.
But yes, you're correct. It should be a a no-brainer for everyone who is involved. But we are who we are, and we do tend to take those shortcuts, which we think
Yeah.
they are beneficial to us, but they are many a times more costly to us.
Let us have honor among thieves, even if yes, I
And
have
as
no say when somebody is inflating prices of tea leaves and on office supplies and those doubling the cost of those photocopy papers. I'm not part of that crew. I don't know those. But if you are dealing with something that has the potential to cause loss of life and destruction of property, can we please steer clear of that, tafadhali? even as much as we blame police officers on the highway, there's a certain situation your vehicle may be in a condition they tell you this is a no. There are situations the police will tell this is a definite no, we can't allow this. There was a time when my parents were busy constructing a house. They were passing through a roadblock. Then they saw another border. I think one was carrying, I don't know, a calf, ule mtoto wa ng'ombe, and the other one behind had what do I call it? The guy at the very end had someone wanted to tie a wheelbarrow, and somebody in between had 2 sacks of cement. The police have said this is madness. This has nothing to do with corruption. This is sheer madness. Hii hatuwezi kubali. So we are who we are, and apart from maybe in the Middle East, there's no country that is 100% corruption free. But then again, you should also limit yourself, because what if you have your person living in those Runda or these so-called leafy suburbs that got affected? What are you going to do? You're the one responsible for loss of your own family member. Because it's not a selector, it doesn't choose class. When that floods come, they don't choose who we are going to kill, given that places like Gigiri are now affected. So let us just, this is a wake-up call for us. And also, when you want to build something, do your own Google search. What are the riparian lands in Nairobi? I'm sure, let me just do riparian land in Nairobi. I'm sure Google search.
And sometimes I even wonder, like, these guys that are what are they? These guys that are the architectural community. What's the other one?
The one dealing with
Surveyors.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes I wonder if they can just organize themselves and just decide to do a report. I don't know if they'll be contravening, but just do a report of the new constructions. And probably it's harder to keep track of everything. But maybe as a public service, just do a report, and they can identify sort of some of the well-known hotspots, particularly in the low-income areas where there's a lot of this construction. So they just go do some kind of check, and then maybe publish it on the website and say this house is likely to be a danger. If you're thinking of taking space there, is at your own risk. Just do that report. Anything else is.
Also, I think now that land acquisition and the Ministry of Lands is they have somehow digitized their systems.
Yes.
If you try to maybe purchase a land that is marked as riparian, the system should spit it out. The moment it should be an algorithm or some sort of software that is interlinked with the Ministry of Land system, that when you point to a particular piece of land, the transaction will refuse to go through. Since I'm going to understand the systems are computer, you just block it so that you can't access a title deed, you can't access anything. And if someone tries to sort of break it, it will be flagged to the highest level, and to the minister's office. The CS office should get a notification that someone is trying to sort of access prepare documentation for riparian land.
But
Make
you know,
it
the government has been compromised in this case, because it's hard now to rely on the government, because they are compromised. I think we need a third entity here, which is not managed by government.
Okay,
Because
let's say
that's why
somebody.
I was saying those survey association and the survey association and these other guys, it can be the guys to do this as community service, and then they can even ask, they can even, if they are prudent with their finances, they could even ask us for money to support
Yeah,
those
I think
activities.
the one of the best ways they can do what we call drone coverage of Nairobi. So once they have those
Yes,
drone pictures, you can now
yes,
demarcate so that this area, these are the no-go zones. If you want
yes,
to keep yourself safe from the effects
yes,
of this, extreme or just normal precipitation. So
yes,
once you are there, then you can actually sort of query that your land is located. You punch in, I mean, this area, enter, tell you you are safe. This one gives you are in the red zone. So
yes,
such a website could do then public awareness, whereby they go forth and say they have their small campaigns and online campaign and whatnot. Because whoever has money should also should have money to afford an internet phone or Wi-Fi or whatnot. So
and I like that idea what you're saying, because I'm sure, let's say you are just sharing your example of when you are looking for a house, and one of the things is you check those kind of things. Where is it? Where is that house situated? What will happen when there will be some heavy rain? Maybe there are some sort of common layman things that we can all be able to look at and see this is in a danger spot, and the like. And even when we are thinking of taking up a house, we could even ask the owner of the house, give me maybe reports showing that this house has been certified by the relevant authority. These are things we can ask as a customer. If the guy is hesitant to share with you, you might as well say yes. Then you're not the kind of guy I can. I'm not ready to be your landlord, to be your tenant.
tenant. Hmm.
So I bet probably it can be some kind of a checklist that can be provided by these professionals. And it's part of, as I said, that service to the community, public service being offered to the community. They're just doing that. Just follow this checklist. We might not be there with you to do the technical due diligence, but there are just a few markers that you can see. And if probably two or three come out true, then that's a red flag and the like.
Yes, especially in the proximity to riparian land. So like this, when you are flying, you fly the drone, take picture. You know those Google image pictures. In fact, they can actually pick. They don't need a drone. They just need to pull something from Google Images. The last time I used the Google Image Earth, what you call not Google Earth. The current Google Earth, I think, is for 2023 December, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Because
Uh-huh.
I use it for. I normally have bouts of nostalgia, so I Google where I used to live in Mombasa and whatnot. So using that Google Earth technology, now they can they say they know these things. They can identify these areas, this part of Athi River, this you are in this part of if it is let's say Langata, this part of Langata, they redline it. Then they put it in the database so that when you punch in, I'm living in this part of Utawala, they tell you are safe or you're in there. It's a simple Google search. No, yeah, you just a simple you punch in where you live. Like I live in my area is called Mavoko. We are in the proximity of Mavoko locusts. So if I
Yeah.
punch in Mavoko, this you say I'm well. If I punch in, there's a place called Vanillas or a place called Shell. If I point in Shell, tell you no, up you are in danger and whatnot. So such things will play a very major role in securing lives and property. And since these are people who are driven by the need for professionalism, there'll be no any form of bribing because the information is there. So it is now up to you to do your due diligence when you are purchasing land. Tafadhali go through the website. They should sort of go on TV to know land yote tafadhali, and they should cover all what do I call it? Every part of the republic. so that when this county, those services are available free of charge, and it should be like a campaign. Kabla ununua land, ingia kwa mtandao wetu, tafuta kitu fulani fulani fulani, I mean, ingia kwa tovuti yetu, tafuta kitu fulani fulani, punch in that number, na itakwambia kama hiyo sehemu iko salama wakati wa mvua ama haiko salama. Such a small campaign for like a 1 minute ad during prime time will save a lot.
I agree. I agree 100%. And as we are saying, some of these are public service. It's sort of a community service that you're giving to the population in response to what you're seeing in the environment. And now we've seen a lot of these people that are just contravening, the government is compromised. So one way to make sure that the government is not you're not incentivizing these offenders, one in government and two in those criminal developers, is to ensure if they're going to go ahead and put up their structures there, I'm sure many of them will end up, sort of towing the line and following the law when they find that if I put a structure there, then I'm not attracting tenants, because there's a message that has been put that this structure is in a riparian land. And because maybe this is a very expensive exercise, we can say begin with Nairobi. And
I begin with Nairobi, and as I said, we have things like Google Maps and not Google Maps. Why am I stuck with Google? We have at Google available. Google Earth is free unless maybe you can get in touch with Google Earth for some permission, but you're not charging money. You see, if you are making money from this, but I don't think Google will have any issue when you are doing what you call a service. You're actually you are putting people making people to be cautious or aware of any risk they are taking. So a Google Earth.google Loot family, you've come for bonds again. Jamaa kwa kuchelewa. Okay, karibu lakini. Welcome. How's life on the what is that boat called? I forget its name. Your boat ilikuwa inaitwaje? That long boat where you can move around in.
Some canoe thing.
I forget it.
Canal boat or something.
Yes. How's life on the canal? Karibu sana. Welcome aboard. So I don't think Earth Google will have a problem with that. So that one will play a major role. It's because it's a free service. The only you need to do is log into the website, punch in the land where you are located, just general location, not a must you give an exact point. General location, they'll tell you this land is a no-go zone for you. And what is the reference? The reference is our capacity, our knowledge as the surveyors association, something like that. So if somebody has a problem with them, get in touch with the surveyors association, ask them more, and they'll give you a clear answer because they are the experts in that field.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I agree. And yes, Google Earth is available. And with all the tools that are now available online, I'm sure the cost is not that expensive. It's probably going to be just put someone there for a few hours to do that mapping, and then let it be uploaded on a publicly accessible website, provide some few checklists that people can do. Man, these are ideas. I don't know, maybe I don't know the nitty-gritties of, quantity surveyors and architects, but if we had someone with that background, maybe they can confirm what we are suggesting, if it's feasible.
Yeah, because riparian land is, once the riparian land is known, you're capturing it from the bottom and putting some sort of a shade, like if it is shaded red, uko pabaya. If you are in green zone, you are okay. There's red zone and green zones, and no gray areas. You're either safe or not safe. You see, the moment you start doing this, hapa si pabaya, hapa sijui nini tunajaribu, no, that's where you create a problem. So just say this all to here, this is red zone. Then there may be a certain yellow zone that is of reduced risk that may go red if there's extra precipitation, but then there's areas which are green, plain and simple. So it is the professionals in that area, in that in that industry, they know these places. So you're simply capturing it. You are giving an aerial view and mapping them and shading them off. So all you have to do is just get in there. No need for ID. Just punch in. I'm in this area. Is it safe or not safe? Plain and simple.
Correct. Correct. I couldn't say it any better. Yeah. I think we can then call it a day.
Yes,
Go
give
get
you
the
time
next,
to cool off kiasi, so that you
Yeah.
can rejuvenate, so that next week you come in full force. We wish you a quick recovery. Asante
Yes.
sana to Luti family for joining in. We are closing a bit early because my co-host Andrew is having a very serious fight with some microbes somewhere in his respiratory system. Other than that, I can only say adios from Athi River.
Live from Kigali, Rwanda. See ya.